In the harsh basin of Central Asia, a massive scar is being carved into the Earth's surface. It's not a natural wonder, but Afghanistan's most audacious ambition after 20 years of war, the Qosh Tepa Mega Canal. This nearly 300-kilometer-long man-made river is being dug at breakneck speed. For Afghanistan, it's a lifeline, a symbol of national revival. But for downstream countries, it's nothing short of a looming death sentence. A silent war is breaking out over a resource more precious than oil: water. Will this canal turn Afghanistan into a new paradise? Or will it deliver the final blow to the Aral Sea, pushing the entire region into an irreversible ecological disaster? Today, join Terran Works as we dive into the fiercest geopolitical maze in Central Asia to seek the answer. In August 2021, the world watched in shock as the last helicopters departed from Kabul. Afghanistan plunged into a power vacuum and was completely cut off economically. With international aid making up 80% of the national budget suddenly halted, the country faced a brutal reality: poverty. According to the United Nations, over 90% of Afghans lack sufficient food. Yet paradoxically, Afghanistan is not a barren wasteland. The country's north holds fertile plains, missing only one crucial element for transformation: water. For decades, Afghanistan's water resources went underutilized due to constant warfare. When Western engineers and support withdrew, the Taliban-led government realized they could no longer rely on anyone but themselves. Afghanistan's struggle for survival doesn't lie in its untapped mineral wealth, it lies in agriculture. If they can turn arid land into rice fields and cotton farms, they won't just be able to feed their people. They'll also strengthen the regime's legitimacy in the eyes of the world. From this existential need, the Qosh Tepa Canal was born. This is no small project. The canal stretches nearly 300 kilometers, wider than an American football field, and deep enough to swallow a 3-story building. Its goal is clear: to divert water from the Amu Darya River into northern Afghanistan, transforming millions of hectares of arid land into farmland. What has captured global attention is not just the scale, but the way Afghanistan is executing the project. With no international loans and no global construction firms, Qosh Tepa is being built almost entirely with domestic resources. Over 10,000 workers and thousands of machines are toiling day and night, carving through the desert at a pace rarely seen in a nation so poor and unstable. For the Afghan government, Qosh Tepa is more than just an irrigation project. It is a symbol of self-reliance, a declaration of the country's ability to take control of its future in a world that has turned its back. If successful, the canal could irrigate over 1.3 million hectares of land, create hundreds of thousands of jobs, and bring millions of people back into agriculture. But the greater the ambition, the higher the risk. And those risks have already begun to surface during construction. Speed is the pride of the Qosh Tepa project, but also its greatest weakness. To get water flowing as quickly as possible, many sections of the canal were dug under the motto, "dig first, reinforce later." This approach cut down on time, but came at the cost of structural safety. In early 2023, a section of the canal burst. Tens of billions of gallons of water flooded into the desert in a short span of time. The cause wasn't a natural disaster, it was the result of incomplete concrete lining. For American engineers, this would be unacceptable. In the US, federal irrigation projects often take decades to perfect every detail. But in Afghanistan, the choice is stark: slow down and let the people go thirsty, or accept the risks to save the harvest. The Qosh Tepa worksite has become a microcosm of a nation racing against time, where technical decisions are no longer just matters of engineering, they are matters of life and death. And while Afghanistan grapples with internal challenges, the canal's impact is already beginning to spill across its borders. To understand why Qosh Tepa is so controversial, we need to look at the main character, the Amu Darya River. Often compared to the Colorado River of Central Asia, The Amu Darya is the region's longest and most vital river, originating from the towering peaks of the Pamir Mountains and flowing through multiple countries. For centuries, this river has been the sole lifeline for oases in the heart of the desert. The water of the Amu Darya isn't just a resource, it's the bloodstream of civilizations. However, unlike many other international rivers, the sharing of the Amu Darya's water is governed by treaties from the Soviet era, which entirely excluded Afghanistan. Now, as Afghanistan begins tapping into the river, it is disrupting an order that has existed for decades. Afghanistan claims it has the legal right to do so as an upstream country that encompasses 30% of the river basin's area, yet has never received a fair share of its benefits. But here's the issue. The Amu Darya is not an infinite water source. Qosh Tepa is expected to divert 20 to 25% of the river's flow during dry years, a massive hydrological shock that could plunge the entire region into a crisis no country can solve on its own. Why are downstream countries worried, some even alarmed, about Afghanistan drawing water from upstream? The answer lies not in politics or borders, but in a plant that seems all too familiar. Cotton, once known as the white gold of Central Asia. For decades, cotton has not just been a crop, it has been an economic pillar, the foundation of employment, exports, and social stability across the region. The clearest example is Uzbekistan, one of the world's largest cotton producers and exporters. Its cotton-based agriculture relies almost entirely on water from the Amu Darya. Millions of hectares of cotton fields stretch across dry plains and must be irrigated continuously during the summer, when rainfall is virtually non-existent. Each cotton season consumes an immense amount of water, and even a slight drop in the river's flow can disrupt the entire system. The cotton industry doesn't just generate foreign currency through exports. It drives a vast supply chain, from farmers and harvest workers to spinning mills, textile factories, and industrial garment zones. It's estimated that a significant portion of Uzbekistan's population depends directly or indirectly on cotton to make a living. In this context, even a 10 to 15% reduction in irrigation water could cause a severe drop in cotton yields, putting hundreds of thousands of jobs at risk and shaking the country's entire economy. That's why, as the Qosh Tepa Canal begins diverting water from upstream, the concerns of downstream nations are no longer hypothetical or distant forecasts. To them, this isn't merely a resource dispute. It's a direct threat to their white gold, which has sustained Central Asia for generations. And cotton may well be just the first link in a far greater chain reaction. To understand the real risks of diverting water from the Amu Darya, we don't need to look to the future. We only need to look back at the past of the Aral Sea. Once the fourth largest lake in the world, with a surface area nearly the size of Ireland, the Aral has almost completely vanished within just a few decades. This wasn't the result of climate change, but a direct consequence of human decisions in the 20th century, when water from the Amu Darya and Sir Darya was massively redirected to support cotton farming. As the feeder rivers were cut off, the Aral's water levels dropped at an unprecedented rate. Its freshwater ecosystem completely collapsed. Fish disappeared, the fishing industry went bankrupt, and coastal communities lost their livelihoods within a single generation. Ships that once docked at bustling ports now sit stranded on dry land. Monuments to the failure of a water management model focused solely on short-term gain. The Aral Sea, therefore, is not just an environmental disaster, it is a historical warning. It shows that upstream river regulation can erase an entire inland body of water. And once that delicate balance is broken, no engineering solution is capable of restoring it to its original state. The disappearance of the Aral Sea didn't end the story. It opened a far more dangerous new chapter on land, the Aralkum Desert. As the water receded, the exposed seabed revealed tens of thousands of square kilometers of land. But Aralkum is not an ordinary sand desert. It is made up of salty sediments, seabed mud, and decades worth of agricultural chemicals from cotton farming. To Today, Aralkum functions as a massive source of pollution. Each year, strong winds lift millions of tons of fine dust, laden with salt and toxic substances, into the air, spreading across Central Asia and beyond regional borders. The air, farmland, and groundwater in surrounding areas are continuously subjected to salinization and secondary contamination. For people living in Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, Aralkum isn't a historical memory. It's a daily reality. Dust storms are becoming more frequent, crops are withering, and serious health issues are rising generation after generation. In this context, any project that further reduces downstream water flow, like the Qosh Tepa Canal, not only deprives the region of water, but fuels the expansion and intensification of Aralkum. This is the ecological price that continues to grow, spreading through soil and air, far beyond the scope of any short-term agricultural benefit. There is one detail that sounds almost unbelievable, but it stands as the most powerful evidence of this disaster's global reach. Traces of Aral Sea salt dust have been found in the bodies of penguins in Antarctica. How could toxic particles from a parched region in Central Asia travel thousands of miles to reach the most remote, frozen corner of the Earth? Scientists believe that as the Aral Sea dried up, ultrafine dust particles carrying salt, pesticides, and agricultural chemicals became light enough to be swept into the upper layers of the atmosphere. Once there, they were no longer a local issue. They entered the global atmospheric circulation system, carried by wind currents that move constantly over the course of months, even years. When these particles finally settled in Antarctica through snowfall, they silently infiltrated the region's fragile food chain, starting with marine plankton, passing to fish, and ultimately accumulating in the bodies of penguins, creatures living at the farthest edge of the human world. This story serves as a warning. What's happening around the Qosh Tepa Canal is not just Afghanistan's or Central Asia's problem. When humans alter the flow of a major river, they're not only reshaping land, they're impacting the entire ecosystem connected to it. Environmental disasters know no borders. A decision made to fight hunger and revive an economy in one nation can unintentionally set off a chain of pollution that reaches even the most untouched corners of the planet. It reminds us that in the 21st century, there is no such thing as a local action when it comes to nature. Every intervention, even one born out of the need to survive, carries global consequences. Looking ahead, if the Qosh Tepa Canal truly succeeds and overcomes its technical hurdles, what could Afghanistan look like? In the most optimistic scenario, the country's north could become the region's breadbasket. Golden wheat fields would replace thorny shrubs and scorched sand. Achieving food self-sufficiency would allow Afghanistan to reduce its reliance on international aid organizations and establish a real economic foundation. However, Afghan agriculture stands at a crossroads. Will the country repeat the Soviet Union's mistakes by cultivating water-intensive crops and relying heavily on chemical inputs? Or will it adopt drip irrigation technology and smart water management to make the project sustainable? With limited funding and a shortage of high-level technical experts, the latter path seems extremely challenging. In addition, developing large-scale agriculture requires a reliable system of logistics, storage, and market access. Without cooperation from neighboring countries for exports, surplus produce may end up going to waste. Afghanistan holds a powerful tool to change its destiny, but it needs more than just a canal. It needs a long-term, sustainable agricultural strategy, and most importantly, harmony with the broader ecosystem of Central Asia. Qosh Tepa could mark the beginning of a golden era, or become the starting point of decline for the very lands it was meant to save. The Qosh Tepa Canal stands as proof that human willpower can reshape geography, but it also serves as a stark warning about nature's fragility. Afghanistan has the right to develop, and its people have the right to live in dignity. But is that price too high if it means plunging neighboring territories into thirst and suffocating an ecosystem already on the brink? We are entering an era where water is not only a source of life, but also a growing source of conflict. Qosh Tepa is not just an irrigation project. It is a harsh test of humanity's compassion and foresight on a planet that is steadily heating up. What do you think about this controversial project? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next journey with Terran Works.